speak today. While Fahima focused on the mental health aspect, I would like to focus on my experiences relating to growing up being a Black Muslim girl in Red Deer. I was born and spent the first half of my life in Regina, Saskatchewan. Unlike Red Deer, Regina had an abundance of people who looked like me, practiced the same religion, and whose home life closely resembled mine. Our close-knit community celebrated Eid together, held iftars every Ramadan, attended Friday prayers, held Sunday school for the kids, and the best part of it all was seeing my friends 5 days a week at Islamic school. Our parents were friends, our siblings were friends, and everyone knew everyone. I was so immersed in my community that I often forgot others existed. Since all my friends were Muslim, wearing a hijab, openly discussing Islam, speaking our native languages, and praying 5 times a day were my normal. I cannot recall having a friend that did not share my same religion or culture as me. I was not unique in my identity, and I honestly did not know I was considered a minority in Canada until 2011. When everyone around you reinforces your way of life, it's easy to become comfortable and think that the beautiful bubble you're immersed in will last forever. In August of 2011, my family relocated to Red Deer, and to say I experienced culture shock would be an understatement. Coming from a place that had thousands of people that looked like me and practiced the same religion to the only other Black people I would see all month would be my family is kind of confusing for an 11-year-old. My first day of school, I walked in with my hijab, trying my best to be confident, but failing as I was scared. No one knew me, I didn't know anyone, but most except me had something in common, that they were all white. I wore a uniform and went to private school my whole life, and they wore Aeropostale and skinny jeans. I spoke English mixed with Somali, Arabic, and used words they thought were weird. I ate Somali food for lunch while they had lunch bowls and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I was so different from everyone here, and it was weird because I had just come from a place where I was just like everyone, and I was confused. Most people would say, I don't see color or judge the content of someone's character. But when you've been surrounded by African and Muslim people your whole life, it's hard to make the adjustment as an 11-year-old. I remember coming home from school one day and pulling my older sister aside and asking her if she experiences the horrors that I went through. We went to the same school, but were separated by 2 grades, so I couldn't even run for her for comfort if I tried. My very first day, I remember people talking to me really slow to gauge my level of English to see if I was good enough to have a conversation with. They asked me if the color of my headscarf correlated to my feelings that day and if I missed Africa. I know kids have no malicious intent, but I was also a kid and was hurt and embarrassed because I knew to my classmates I was seen as weird. I didn't hear anyone else receiving the kind of questions I did, so I knew that I was the issue. I missed my old life where my friends and I would try out new hijab styles in the washroom before prayer time at school. I missed when in Ramadan we made plans at the masjid to meet outside while our parents were distracted talking to one another. I miss not standing out and being known as Aniza, the fastest girl in our grade, and not Aniza, the Black girl who wears that thing on her head. When my sister and I were talking that day, we made a game plan about how to survive this alternate reality we found ourselves in. It was mission convince mom to move back home. We obviously knew we couldn't convince our mom to move back home, but we went about the rest of the school year with the deluded idea we were going back home to make ourselves feel better. I finished that year trying my best to be invisible, keep my head down, and not make noise to draw attention to myself. I was successful, and I can honestly say my classmates did not know anything about me. I was that quiet foreign kid in the back of the classroom who was smart because she went to private school. Going into the next school year, I knew I wasn't going back home and began to become comfortable with that idea. I didn't like my school or living in this city, but I knew I had to make the best of my situation or else I would be miserable. I knew I had to do a few things to not be seen as an outcast. The first was tell people my name. Second was reminding everyone I wasn't a foreign exchange kid. I spoke English and was born in Saskatchewan. And the third was to take off my hijab. I was uncomfortable wearing something that brought so much attention to myself and made me different from everyone. I could not change the color of my skin, and not that I wanted to, but something I could do to blend in was not wear hijab. In hindsight, it didn't make much of a difference because I was the only one with curly hair. I was successful in blending in, and to my surprise, it was fun. I was planning mall hangouts, sleepovers, and going to parties. I was living my life somewhat satisfied, but always felt that I was missing something. Fast forward 2 years, and I'm entering high school now. The summer after grade 8 was very transformative for me. My mom was sick of my siblings and I acting like we had no culture. We were starting to resemble the people we went to school with, not in appearance, but behavior. I guess she didn't like that we were forgetting our Islamic school upbringing and were running around like the public school kids. She sent us to a Muslim summer camp in Calgary for a month, and I was excited to be around other Muslim girls and get back to what I once had. I put my hijab on and was ready to go. Till this day, summer 2014 will be something I'll always remember. Running around the University of Calgary with my sisters and other Muslim girls who wore hijab, learning about our religion, and sharing culture was the thing I was missing in my life those past 2 years. Not to say I didn't have fun with my friends from school, but the foundational part of my identity was not relatable to them. My home life, foods I ate, languages I spoke, cultural identity, race, religion were of my own. I remembered a quote by a companion of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He who in his friendship with you is of no aid to your base self, his friendship is a curse on you, if only you knew. Obviously, I knew my friends weren't a curse on me, but I thought, if the people I'm associating with are not even the slightest bit interested in the things that made me who I am, was I benefiting from this friendship? And why did I feel as though I couldn't be my authentic self with them? I shouldn't have to take off my hijab and tone down my Somali and Muslim to feel accepted. This was a profound realization for a 14-year-old. The Muslim girls at summer camp showed me what it was like to have genuine love for my intersectionalities, being a young girl, Muslim, Black, and Somali. We had henna parties while waiting for prayer time, went to Arab Fest, spoke about our relatable home lives. The Muslim boys found me pretty in my hijab, unlike the boys at school who would bring up my weird phase in grade 6. I was genuinely interested in myself and felt proud that I was part of such a fun group of people that were just like me. I'd like to add a quote by Dr. Bilal Phillips. When you feel low or sad, look around you. Who are your friends? Surround yourself with those that remind you of Allah and become happy. And that's exactly what I did. Cut to the end of summer camp and I'm back in Red Deer about to start high school. I knew something had to change and knew it wasn't me. I honestly did not relate to the people at my school, and not for lack of trying. I thought to myself, which of my friends were genuinely interested in me as a person, and not just how I related to them? When I couldn't come up with an answer, I knew what I had to do. My first day of grade 9, I put my hijab back on and cut off 90% of my friends. When I look back, I think cutting off 90% was a little dramatic, but what's done is done. I wanted to genuinely feel like myself, and to do that, I had to go back to what made me most comfortable. The hijab to me is not just a religious symbol, it's what makes me feel pretty and what I watched my mom, my aunts, and my friends' moms wear growing up. They were the most beautiful and genuine people I knew, so why wouldn't I want to emulate that? Being that I cut off 90% of my friends, high school was a little boring and isolating. I retreated into myself and only found happiness in my books and at home. I didn't socialize with more than 2 people. My ideology was, it's better to be authentic and alone. Most people from high school would say they didn't remember me. I took AP classes to kill more time, ate lunch in the library, and was counting down the minutes to go home and spend time with my sisters. I came to the realization that Red Deer wasn't a place for me. I wasn't angry or upset, but just waiting to leave. I became apathetic to my school. I didn't care for any events and opted out of most extracurriculars. As an adult, I realized this was depression, but I was so functional and got good grades that I nor anyone else noticed. Red Deer felt like a prison. I was the only Black girl in hijab in all my classes, and I was comfortable and confident being that, but I felt as though the city and school didn't have a place for me, and that was okay. This one incident in grade 11, where a substitute teacher openly asked me in front of my whole English class where I was from and was happy to shake an immigrant woman's hand, further supported my decision to get out of Red Deer. This incident was reported to the principal by one of my classmates unknowingly to me. And one day during biology, the principal pulled me out of class and apologized for the sub's behavior and was adamant in convincing me Hunting Hills was not that kind of school. And I really didn't care, I just wanted this whole thing to be over. Honestly, the principal coming and talking to me embarrassed me more than the sub's behavior because I was now being talked about, and the administration has to be more sensitive to me now. I wanted to climb into a hole and wait until graduation to emerge and get out of Red Deer and never look back. Reflecting on my 17-year-old life as a 22-year-old who understands mental health, I can confirm I was depressed. I did not enjoy my life outside of home. At home, I was free to be that girl who wore traditional clothes and ate with her hands, but at school I felt outcasted. Partly self-inflicted, but I really didn't care. I thought it was their problem, not mine. I just wanted to get out. The only thing that did help my depression was being around my family that I could relate to, graduating high school, and leaving Red Deer. This is a sad reality for many Black boys and girls and Muslim boys and girls in this city. Our motivation is to study hard to get into a good university and leave the city behind. We don't really care what goes on and would rather spend our time elsewhere. Red Deer does not feel like a home to many of us, and is unfortunate with how much time we spend here. I think about the little brown and Black kids in elementary school here right now and how they can develop mindsets of people like me and how sad and destructive that would be. With our ever-growing community, we need to set ourselves up for success and support our minorities to make them feel as though they have a place and belong, and don't need to shed foundational parts of them to feel accepted. Many of us are in hiding here and don't associate with each other as there is no strong foundation keeping us together. The apathetic behavior a lot of us feel towards red deer can be improved by events like this that bring the community together, where we can identify where we need to improve and go from there. I hope by sharing a little bit about my experience growing up in Red Deer, we can see the need for Black girls, Muslim girls, and everybody to feel comfortable being themselves without being isolated. Feeling alone can lead you down a very dark path. I hope by having more events like this, we can grow foundational supports for the youth in our community.